welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your Judge Eyes host, Madelyn.
I'm your spooky host, Emma.
You're right. It's not Halloween anymore, but it sure was
I played
this week.
some Halloween-type games, though. So.
Wow, look at you. So seasonal. I'm usually the seasonal one.
I know.
And thanks for tuning into this week's show. It's 6 weeks, so it's time to download our save data to your ears and talk about what we've been playing since late September.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I have to say this every time. Unbelievable that 6 weeks have gone by.
Amazing.
Shocking.
Love it here in Amsterdam.
Yes. Lovely canals. Stroopwafels. Playing
And
a lot
such.
of games.
Yep.
I'll say in advance that I worked very hard to finish a game for this podcast episode, and I did. But it does mean that there's some weird straggler things that are going to be in next times. So look forward to that, listeners.
I will look forward to it, personally.
Yeah. Well, Emma, I'm sure you have more games to talk about than I do. So
I don't have that many, for what it's worth.
Sure,
I have
she
5.
said. Okay.
And 2 of them are pretty short, so...
Still, take the lead.
It is not too much. So, we'll start with our customary Cold Steel 4 report. You'll remember I said last time, I was like, I want to be in the finale area. No?
It was longer than you thought.
It was longer. I really did make more of an effort to play more of Cold Steel 4 these past couple of weeks. But this section was like twice the length of any previous section. And I think it's just going to be that way. Like, I have one more section and then the finale section now.
Yeah.
And I think they will probably both be pretty long. So we're getting there. We're within spitting distance. We're over the 80-hour mark.
Oh my god.
We love to see it. And after years of my Cold Steel reports, you may be wondering, Emma, why? Why
I
do
wonder this a lot of why.
And the unfortunate truth is sometimes Cold Steel is good.
Oh no.
Sometimes, okay, so there were parts of this session that were really bad still.
Okay.
There's parts I really hate, but then there are parts that are really good. So I can do like all sorts of bonding events now because I've missed all the girls' first ones, so none of them are special memories anymore. They're just normal, regular memories that aren't special. And there were some really good ones this time that maybe made me cry a little.
Wow.
It also reminded me that, so Elisa is one of Reen's classmates and is, ostensibly, the main girl.
Sure.
If there didn't have the you can pick whoever you want to romance thing, he would date Elisa, probably. But because you can pick the romance, instead, usually, every once in a while, the game remembers, oh yeah, Elisa's, the main girl, and gives her, a scene where she's like, Reen, we love you. Not me in particular, just, all of us.
All of us.
And it's really easy when she just gets a lot of those to forget that, she rules. Her character rules so hard. It's amazing to think about how much better these games would be if they just took out the you can pick your own romance thing. I think that so many of my problems with the character rating would be solved just if they just gave Reen a canon romance option, because the way it's written,
yeah, they have to leave too much space for different relationships.
They have to leave too much space, and all that does is just, nobody can compare to his all-consuming obsession for Crow, essentially. It's the classic shonen manga problem where the main guy has, a way more interesting relationship with his rival than his love interest.
I think we're going to see more of that this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
I really said out loud to myself during one of the Lost Judgment scenes, this is kind of homoerotic. Anyway, continue.
But we got like a focus part of this chapter was like a focus on her and like the family stuff that's going on. Elisa, a member of the I think you should just punch your dad club of the Cold Steel 4, of which there are many.
Mm-hmm.
But she had a really good like her like the maid that's part of her family that like was on the other opposite side for this, and had a good scene with her and her mom, and like, take that, dad, you suck. And I did cry for that.
There was some dad punching in Lost Judgment too.
The crossover is real.
Yeah, the crossover, they're basically the same game.
It's nice to go in and be like, these characters, I like these characters a lot, just like when the game gives them time to do things. And then the main thrust of this chapter was one of the big mech battles against one of the other, like, awakeners or whatever, that are, like, the fancy mechs that have, like, consciousness or whatever. So this was the only one we've done since the one we did with Crow, where Reen saved him with the power of love and capitalism from fading away. And a lot of this game has had, like, people on the opposite side being like, well, I'm here. I don't really think that, like, this is good, but, like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I got this military job right out of college, and I guess I'll die for it. Or not die. I'll get beat up a little bit for it.
Right. I'll take some hits.
And I find that infuriating. I found that infuriating throughout the whole thing. But this mech thing was like, you've done it right this time, because like the guy in charge of this is like, he's a mercenary. He works for money. There's like this whole culture of mercenaries called Jaegers in Cold Steel 4. And so like he's doing this not really because he thinks it's right, but because it's part of it's just his lifestyle, right? They pay him. He does the job that is paid for. And I think that this works because he dies, right? Reen goes to save him with the power of love and capitalism again. But he's like, no, I think, like, it's my time to go. I think, I've done this. He's an emotional moment with another character that he's connected to in our group. But, like, it's very much, like, every time previously, it's just, like, some stupid thing, and then, like, like, they're like, okay, I guess we're done here. Yeah. And this felt like it was actually, like, sort of a tragic battle of ideologies that had, like, some sort of emotional impact beyond, like, hey, my lacrosse buddies from school, I'm gonna beat you up real quick, but it's chill. It's okay that you're fighting for an empire that's literally gonna end the world.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's your first job out of college. I get it.
Happens to all of
us. But like you can do that beat and make it work. It's just like because you've done this character setup, because there's a tragedy and emotion at the end, because of all this thing, and it's just hasn't earned it before, and it actually earned it this time. So overall, good section. It's still a very long game with a lot of fundamental flaws, but that's why I've stuck with it, because there's characters that I like, and occasionally the game lets them have really cool moments, just in between all the not so cool nonsense. Also, I'm over 80 hours in, so I can't give up now.
Yeah. Sunk cost might be a thing you should look at.
I can't give up.
Speaking of sunk cost, I am actually not sure. I would have had to go back to listen to the last side quest to confirm this. I think I've played more Triangle Strategy since the last show.
You were like near the end of the last show.
Had
so
I
don't
already
know if that's
made
true.
the end choice though?
I don't remember if you told me the end choice after the show or if you talked about it on the show.
Sorry, listeners. You're gonna maybe hear me repeat myself. I'm pretty sure that I was doing this after the last podcast. I'm pretty sure. Because I haven't really played it very much since then. Here's the problem. I got to that ending choice and I was like, oh no, like I'm near the ending, but I'm going on a business trip. And then I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to play it on the plane. It's the ending. And then, I did the thing that it's so fitting that I did this for Triangle Strategy, and then I'm going to like have to come back and play the very end. Like on its own. It's so fitting for this experience.
It is. It really is.
But yes, I've decided to go with, ironically, because I kind of hate him, but I've decided to go with Benedict's path.
Yes, I remember you told me that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
After your Benedict slander in every episode?
He's usually, I think he's wrong, but in this situation, it's like, absolutely, like, let's try to work with the other team. Why not? Seems like if we just continue to play both sides, seems like the most likely path to success. I did, overall, I've gotten much more into triangle strategy. I would not recommend playing it in the way that I've played it. That's for sure. I'll also say, like, what's the point of the character stories thing? Like, I keep waiting for there to be kind of a point to it, or these stories to, like, kind of go anywhere, and they keep just, like, hinting at things about people's backstories. Like, Benedict has some kind of long-lost love. And I'm just not going to find out more about that?
Guess not.
They feel like Fire Emblem supports, which, like, cool. For those of you not, like, we get character stories, which sometimes allow you to unlock new characters in Triangle Strategy. But now, later in the game, have started to more often be like, your characters get a little drunk and talk to each other, kind of thing. And they feel like supports, except that they don't seem like I don't think they unlock based on anything, right? It's just like passage of time.
Yeah, I don't think they do anything.
Like, if they were unlocking, like, supports, I'd feel a little bit more like, yeah, okay, I should have these two fight next to each other some more, and I'll find out more. But because I'm, like, at the end of the game, and it feels like, hey, we've given you a little sprinkle of some of these people's backstories, but that's it. I'm sort of feeling like, well, why did you have these at all?
Yeah, that's fair.
Some of them have interesting things in there. It's just like, oh, but they're not going anywhere with that. But I'm looking forward to my bad ending. I'm not like Emma, magically getting the golden ending without even trying. Didn't look at a guide. Yeah, right.
I didn't.
Yeah, right. I don't believe that. If my dudes had done what I had told them in my various decisions instead of revolting against me at every turn, then no doubt I too would have gotten the golden ending.
I think so. You definitely would have been closer, because one of the choices is like smuggling the salt.
See, everybody backstabbed me on that choice. It wasn't even like neither of those choices. Like, I was like, how about a secret third choice on that one? But this is one of the random little stragglers that you're gonna get in our almost end of the year side quest in December, which is that, yes, I have like a chapter left of Triangle Strategy. I'm so dumb. I'm sorry, everyone. I failed you. I really meant to finish it, but I spent the last week and a half falling asleep at random on the couch, so I did not.
Well, I'm looking forward to you unlocking the vocal version of the menu music.
The vocal version of the menu music?
I hope you get it no matter what ending it is, because it was great. It made my Triangle Strategy experience.
I'm excited. I will say about Triangle Strategy, I don't know why you would ever play this game multiple times for multiple endings. It is way too long.
I mean, you can streamline it on a second playthrough, but yeah.
But not like that much. You still have to fight all the battles. Anyway, yes, so look forward to... I probably just repeated myself. I probably had already last time made the Benedict choice, and I'm just roasting myself alive here, being like, I think I played more when I didn't. But I promise I will finish it. And maybe I'm lying to you and I've already finished it. There's an outside chance, listeners, that I'm lying to you and I have already finished the game. Because wouldn't that have been a responsible thing for me to do, to finish it before I go on vacation?
We'll see.
Who knows? You'll find out if I was lying in 6 weeks. Back to you, Emma.
All right. I've also continued playing Baldur's Gate 3. I have a feeling that will probably become like a thing that pops up every now and again on this. I don't feel really pressured to like play it fast because they keep fixing things anyway.
Yeah.
So, honestly, playing it slow is probably the best choice here. We've made it. I don't think we'd made it to the Underdark yet last time I talked about it, which is like the dark area underground, you might say.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So yeah, so we've made our way down there. We've been exploring around. We made friends with the mushroom people. The mushroom people.
Sure.
People who are mushrooms. We did some murder for them. I went there. They were like, "Can you murder this guy?" I was like, "Done. I already did it, actually."
Nice.
And so I just had to talk to the mushroom again and be like, "I did it for you, for your benefit." I didn't leave the spot, and I did it somehow.
They're the personification. Believe it or not, Googling mushroom meme did not bring this up. But there's like you know that thing that's like the mushrooms are so powerful. That like image.
Maybe.
Do you know what I'm talking about, listeners? Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't think Googling powerful mushroom is gonna get me what I want.
I don't think so either.
They'll be there when you die. Like,
yes, maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna try to find it. But
okay, is it like a text post?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about then.
Yes, it was. Thank you for doing a text post that you cannot kill me in a way that matters.
Yes, yeah, that one.
That feels like what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. We saved a little guy from a field of exploding non-sentient mushrooms.
Okay. A lot of mushrooms. It was more mushrooms than I anticipated.
There's a lot of mushrooms down in the Underdark, you know? They're down there. We freed a slave. Just one. I incited the little, I think they're called deep roaches. They're just like oxen, sort of, to rise up against their masters.
Good. Slavery's bad.
Yeah, even when they're oxen. I gave some guy my really bad impressions of like an archaeological ruins, because if you've forgotten, Simone is not very intelligent.
Oh, right, I had forgotten.
So her answers were a little lacking. There was one that used wisdom rather than intelligence, and I got that one, but the rest of them were like, "It's some stones."
Cool.
I forged a cool dagger with some harvested bark. We rowed a boat. Picking a drow was really helpful for this part of the game because the evil group just assumes that you're evil because you're a drow.
Oh, yeah.
So I can skip a lot of checks because they're just like, "Oh, it's a drow. You must be on our side." So
wow. Reverse racism.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I get some racism a little bit from the good people as well, but they get over it pretty fast. When I'm like, I'm the good kind of drow.
Oh, good.
Let's not think too hard about the way this is written. Simone has avoided agreeing to any more dates and causing me to reload because I didn't realize.
Nice.
So that's going well.
Slowly getting smarter.
Getting smarter. You know, that's just, I sort of just run around and do things. I'm not, part of the reason why I'm playing it slow is I'm not that invested in the main plot, I can say. But it's fun to just sort of pop in and run around and have little chats with my friends and kill a few things, you know. Especially now, I would think we've reached a point in level where, like, battles can't just, like, explode on me without warning.
That's good.
Like, I can't just die in a turn immediately anymore.
Very good.
So, you know, there's not a lot of places I can go that it's like, they're 3 levels higher than me anymore. I'm mostly at, I think, the edge of Act 1. So that has been, the combat's been a little bit more fun since I hit that point. Yeah. So that's my Baldur's Gate 3. I expect it to stick around every once in a while, maybe a little less consistently than Cold Steel 4. But
well, let's do, as I've played fewer games than Emma, and let's be honest, I have probably a lot to say about Lost Judgment. Let's do Lost Judgment spoiler-free here. So I'm splitting this up. I'm going to put discussions of the ending of Lost Judgment at the end of the episode, such that if you have not played it, or you don't want to be spoiled, or something like that, you can just skip to the end. Or if you only want to listen to the spoilers, if you don't care about anything Emma's been playing, you can also skip to the end.
You can skip to the end, exactly.
So yes, I played most of what I played these past 6 weeks, is Lost Judgment, which I believe I had started. Yes, I had started just a little bit of last time. And I think in the last podcast, I mostly spent my time griping, like, the timeline doesn't line up with Like a Dragon, which it doesn't.
It doesn't, yeah.
Which is, like, sort of fine, but also feels like, man, Yagami got up to nothing in the meantime, so, like, why don't you just make the timeline line up? He didn't do anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything. Just fix it. Anyway. So let's see. So spoiler free. So yeah, so I played like most of the game, almost all of the game, the past 6 weeks. Which means that all I have left to play is the Kaito files and like Dead Souls and Ishin, I guess, which I should buy while it's on sale before I forget. But none of those matter that much. I'm like ready for Gaiden. And when I run into these guys in Gaiden, they won't be like, haha, remember that time we spoiler? And ruin the game.
I'm a little worried about Kaito, but we'll see.
Oh, okay, so maybe I do need to play the Kaito files. Yikes. Alright, great.
There's some significant developments, which they might not address at all in Gaiden.
Well,
might
Kaito
just be there
wasn't
to be
in
there.
This game, so
that's
it was. This is light spoilers. No. I'll stick spoiler free. The straggler thing here, though, is that in order to finish the game for this podcast, I was pushing really hard to have finished the school stories. And I almost got there. And the freaking biker gang. I thought I was there, too. So in Lost Judgment, there's, like, part of what Yagami is doing is, in addition to solving a murder, conspiracy, serial killer situation, he also does some volunteer work at a school. Yeah. Which is like, there's a lot of ways that experience feels like it should have tied in, that alongside what he was doing, that it doesn't at all. Like, this whole game about bullying, and like he...
You know, since he didn't finish it, I won't say too much, but I think the school story addresses the themes of the game better than the main story does.
I just mean, like, it and not that the sub-stories ever really interact that much with the main story, but, like, just the idea that, like, Yagami has been, like, working at this school for a while feels like it, like, should have an impact on him sometimes in a way that it doesn't always seem to.
Yeah. This isn't spoilers, but there's a couple of kids that show up recurringly in the main story that I think the school stories undermined them.
Oh, I thought it was so wild. Spoiler free. There was a student who was part of that group that they were like, who's the student that Yagami cares about the most? It's this girl. And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, he hangs out a lot with Amasawa.
Yeah.
And, like...
He walks her dog. He co-owns her dog now.
Now, to be fair, RK probably knows better than to... Like, RK probably tried to kidnap Amasawa, and they were like, who's the second most? The second most?
I can't get her.
She's in disguise. I can't find her. Anyway, so, like, you start off as the faculty advisor for the mystery club, and then through your mystery solving with the mystery club, you become the faculty advisor to, like, 8 other clubs. Yeah. And a lot of, like, delightful little stories here. Some of them more impactful to me than others, and some of them much better paced than others. I was griping to Emma about this a couple days ago, that I feel like... and, like, the biking one is the prime example of this. But there are some slightly longer ones that I feel like unlock in the latter third of the game, or at least did for me, that feels like, man, why did you do this? Like, if this had been, like, the second one that unlocked, I might have done it in a more gradual way. and it might not have felt like such a burden to have to get through. And like, so, and some of them are really short. Like one of the first ones I unlocked was the skateboard guys, and like that took like 30 minutes total.
Yeah. The four, I think the way there's four, there's five at the top, but one of them's the Mystery Research Club as a whole. Yeah. So there's the four at the top that are the big ones, and then the five on the bottom of the menu screen are pretty short.
Oh, I didn't clock that at all.
To do what the story needs you to do.
I didn't clock that at all. I didn't notice the difference in length in terms of that at all. But like, for instance, like the Robotics Club, where you help them play violent robot Tetris, basically capture the flag. Like that one, both had enough like arc to the story, and I mean, partially it's just like I maybe enjoy the gameplay of that more than I enjoy the biking, so that helps too. But it unlocked early enough that even though I probably had to do like 16 robot battles, 12 maybe, it didn't feel like punishing at any point. Even though those robot battles do not change that much. Like, it's not that deep. Whatever.
Yeah, I think the biking is the worst minigame. I don't remember it unlocking as late in the story as it seemed to have for you, so I might have spent more time on school stories earlier than you did.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I can see how if you unlock that pretty late in the game, it would be like, oh my god, I don't want to bike anymore.
Well, and it's like, so in the biking one, so, you know, there's the whole school stories ideas. There's this shady guy called the professor who's selling criminal activity at the high school. And so the Mystery Research Club is researching that, and as part of that, you're going undercover in all of these clubs or Yokohama organizations or whatever. And so one of the things you're going to go undercover with is there's a student who used to be super rule following and now runs like a giant motorcycle gang. And your goal is to like get him to not do that. Cause like that's kind of bad. And to do that, like the motorcycle gang is like, if you beat me in a race, you get to tell me what to do. And lots of like cute little stories here, right?
Yeah. I like the fireworks guy a lot.
The fireworks guy definitely the most, well, I don't know, like all the leaders are like decent stories. I like that Yagami got to say, God is dead. I think I heard that somewhere. Like that was pretty good. And the girl being like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm a god. That was a pretty good little one. But the problem is that like, so to race the leader, you have to race through the other three factions of the gang. And not just like, I have to beat the leader of each of the three factions, but you also have to beat like 3 of their underlings. And naively, I thought that the game would recognize that that was freaking enough when I beat the third one, Ghost. And I was like, it will let me race Suo now. This was like 1 a.m. last night. I was like, I can do this. I can finish this. And then tomorrow I'll be able to beat do the professor thing. And then I'll beat the game. I literally just finished this game in time for the podcast. Crazy, I know. So I'm in Amsterdam. And PS5 remote play is crazy. Anyway, but then it was like, no, like you're gonna have to race one of his Goonies. And then I looked it up, and it's like, oh my god, he's got more cronies than anyone. I have like 5 more races, and I did one of them. I was like, I don't know, like let's see, and it's so long. Not like. To fight the like boss in each, like the mini boss in each one, you have to take out their Goonies, and it increases every single race. So I've got to take out like 20 bikers to take out the mini biker, and I have to do that 5 times.
Yeah.
Who did this? Like, I don't hate the bike game. I get to power slide, right? Love a game where I get to power slide. But it's not great. I would have done that many dances. Like, if the dance game was like, you're gonna have to do, like... And I did. You have to practice the dance. If you do each dance 4 times.
Yeah.
And I relished every moment of that.
Yeah.
But the biking game sucks. And it held me back. So you're gonna have to look forward to my thoughts on Premium Adventure next time. Also funny, like, at the end, like, the ability to have a girlfriend unlocked. And I was like, oh, that's crazy that I only just unlocked the first girlfriend. Like, because usually there's a few. But then I got to the end screen where it tallies everything up, and it's like, nope, like, there's one.
Yeah, there are DLC girlfriends.
Okay, that explains
if you get the like adventure pack DLC, whatever.
Okay.
It comes with like another dance. You can fight
another
your friends.
Dance.
You can fight your friends in boxing.
Okay. I liked boxing.
A couple
too.
more
I was pretty good at boxing.
Yeah, I like the boxing one a lot.
I don't think my technique was anything to write home about, but I never lost, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was hard. The end like boss rush boxing fight where you fight the same person 3 times was tough.
Mm-hmm.
I had to utilize a heat move to get through it.
Wow.
I didn't even really know this is a move you could do, but you have an insta-kill boxing move for when you have full heat and you're at low health. And that was the only way I was going to get this guy, because I could not do any damage. I was like, this is not working. Like, how am I going to do this? He's like, what am I going to do? And like, I did it. I won.
Good
This
work.
felt so cheap. I don't know how long I've been talking about this, but yes, for school, I enjoyed a lot of the school stories. I thought about trying to make like a ranking of my favorite ones, but I was playing the game right up to the end. Dance up there, robotics up there. I liked boxing. Girls Bite, where you have to, Girls Bite, I had forgotten. I had somehow forgotten that like it wasn't the girl that I was after who was a high school student. It was a guy who was going there. And so for a while I was like, Yagami, what is wrong with you? Like, Emily is a high school student.
I mean, all his girlfriends in the first one are, like, way too young for him.
No, they're not. A couple of them are, like, 30s.
Yeah, and then a couple of them are, like, 19.
Right, yeah. No, I know. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying, like, 2 of them were, like, semi-age appropriate. But I was like, what's wrong with you? Like, this is a student. And only later did I remember, like, no, she's an adult. But that one would have been fun if they had more conversation things. They like repeat their conversations right away, and it's like you really couldn't have written like 6 more of these.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily's were fun because they actually required you to like have knowledge of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that okay, except that I got a what the internet tells me is a glitch that one of the girls would sometimes not appear. I had to enter like 6 times to get Ayaha's sub story to appear. She just like wasn't there.
She's busy, okay?
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I should probably pause there. More spoilery thoughts on Lost Judgment to come.
Then I also played all of Dodgeball Academia.
Oh, right.
Which has been on my list, my backlog for a while. This and Pyre, the only 2 team sport RPGs that exist, I believe.
Only 2.
So I went from Pyre to this. I talked about Pyre last time. It's good. It's very like just very sports anime inspired. So you're Otto. You've snuck your way into dodgeball school. When your dad wants you to go to referee school, where the losers go, right?
Wow.
And so
Top
you're
school.
going around, you're like, I'm gonna be the best dodgeball player, I'm gathering my team, and then your dad finds out what you've done, and your dad's like, if you don't win the championship, you're going to referee school. To live to, our long line of referees in our family. You must become one of them. So every day there's like a little like subplot going on. Like there's like a dodgeball robot invasion in one. You have to babysit a baby dodgeball with your rival in another one.
like a health class.
Yeah, like a health class. But they're a type of dodgeball. The baby dodgeballs, when you throw them and they land, they'll roll back to the center. As opposed to just staying.
Sure.
That's the type of dodgeball they are. Or like the team you're going up against the championship that day has like a secret move and you've got to research what they're doing. Or there's like a cult of the square ballers that believe that dodgeballs are actually square.
This sounds
that you have
weird.
to take on. And there's like a recurring group of characters that keep like you face in like little combat things after like their main antagonist day is done. It's very charming and very good. I enjoyed it a lot. And the dodgeball's pretty fun too. You got like usually you have like 3 people on a court at a time. You can switch between them. They each have ultimate moves when their ultimate meter charges up. So, you know, Otto can basically like, what is it, Kamehameha or whatever?
Yeah. With
the dodgeball. Mina can shoot electricity. Balloony, whose head is a balloon, so he's like he has to gain confidence as he goes because he is a balloon. Can heal your party, and you get more characters that can do other various things. So you some characters have counters, so you press the button when the ball's getting close to you to like shoot it back, or they can catch the ball, and then you can either throw it or you can charge throw it, and each character has their own like charge throw effect. And you know, it was a very good time. It was very charming. I liked the, you know, they should be more little filler plots in Haikyuu, is what I'm saying. Like the time when they have to study for their finals.
I know. I think about that in Haikyuu a lot. I'm like, dang, there's no more time for that.
Yeah. I want Hinata to have to babysit a bag of flour.
Yeah.
Or volleyball.
That would be good.
So, you know, if you're looking, and there should be more team sport RPGs. Stop making ones about golf. Where is my volleyball RPG?
They know that people who play golf have the disposable income to be purchasing games.
God. I just want to experience the epic highs and lows of high school volleyball.
Why wasn't there a volleyball club in Judgment?
If only.
Very little sport.
You're right.
They know that
really do any sports.
Would be bad at sports.
Well, the basketball team is like a part of like the main plot, right?
That's
so you
true.
Can't do that.
You don't really ever see them play basketball, though.
Yeah, that's true too.
Back to me?
Back to you.
Alright, the game that I got hyper obsessed with for a little bit and then sort of forced myself to not play much more of, but guess what? Did I spend a bunch of time playing this instead of sleeping on the flight to Amsterdam? Maybe. It's FTL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, FTL, one of our games for the podcast. So also I'll note, like, obviously for the show, I played demos of Star Ocean, Space for the Unbound, and Sea of Stars. All games that I am, you know, considering returning to sometime in the next 18 months.
Right.
You know, depends on what my life looks like. Man, we're plotting the work schedule this week, and whoo, a lot of shows. But you know, I won't go listen to the podcast of those that are out.
Yep.
And
whichever ones are.
Which ones? Unclear. We've at least said on the show that Sea of Stars is next, I think. I think it was Star Ocean and Space for the Unbound, and I've played some of the demo of Sea of Stars for next week's show, because I'm getting ahead. So look forward to my thoughts on that next week, and go listen to my other thoughts last week. But yeah, FTL was our old game for like our first podcast of this cycle. It's, you know, like a roguelike space combat traversal thing. And yeah, man, like certain types of roguelikes really scratch that itch for me. As I think I talked about on that show. But since that show, I believe, I played a bunch of FTL. FTL was my, like, in-flight time killer when I was flying to and from Los Angeles at the beginning of October. It was great for that. It saved me from having to purchase Wi-Fi on the way over. I was like, I'm just going to play FTL.
There you go.
Like, there's a little bit of irony to, like, the amount of times that my ship, like, fell apart and, like, me flying. But, yeah, on one of those, I got all the way to the final boss.
Wow.
I know. I was very proud of myself. And I honestly think that I maybe could have beaten the final boss too, had I not been fighting it like as the plane was descending, and at all times I was like, a flight attendant is gonna come and tell me to put this away. So
can you not pause in FTL?
Like, you can pause, I think, but it's like, then what was I gonna do? Like, was I gonna like someone was picking me up from the airport? Was I gonna like sit in the terminal and like finish it? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, this person, they probably would have understood, but like, yeah. So I did, after reading a bunch of articles, people being like, I've never finished this game, but it's one of my favorites. I did get on a really lucky run all the way through. And I unlocked a new, I didn't beat it, but I did get all the way to the end. And I did unlock a new ship.
Wow.
So that's fun. And the new ship I'm not very good at using, because it doesn't come with any offensive weapons. It just comes with a robot. But I'm trying to get Clickbait Boyfriend to play FTL, because I think that it will destroy his life too. I saw him play Hades,
Yeah.
I saw what happened to us when we got too into Binding of Isaac, and I'm just like, I just want to be able to bond with you over games from afar. So I've been trying, and he doesn't have any consoles right now, so I'm trying to be like, you can play it on your Mac. He, by the way, I don't know if he's ever talked to you about Dungeons of Dreadmore, which is also like I think it's a roguelike type game that he loved and has always wanted to play with me. And he had the devastating experience of going into Steam. He's like, I'm gonna play games, and it's not compatible.
Yeah.
It's like the old Mac version. He's like, I can't play it anymore.
Oh.
He like basically cried on the phone. Sorry, CBB. I'm being for dramatic effect.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. FTL, like, yeah, ideal travel game for me. Because I get to pretend that I will do something, and just ideal general game, because I get to pretend that I will do something productive, like in between runs or in between levels or something like that. And sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. So looking forward to playing a little bit more of that potentially, but I should be careful about how much of that I'm allowed to play, just generally. Because
you have to leave the hotel room, Alan. You've been doing nothing but playing FTL.
I can't. I have to get through it. Bring me back some Dutch food. Go do double Dutch.
All right. Okay, my last two, the short ones. You might be like, Emma, you said you were the spooky host. All you've given us is like your Cold Steel 4 Purgatory and Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Spooky. That's not spooky. So here it is. Here's my spooky section as promised. I played the Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways DLC, the remake. You play as Ada Wong, sort of going through what she was doing at the same time as the events of Resident Evil 4.
Mm-hmm.
It was very fun. I liked it. I liked the Resident Evil 4 remake that I played earlier this year, and this is basically more of that, but Ada has a grapple hook, so
nice.
Improved. Maybe objectively better. She can melee enemies from a distance when they're stunned, so she can just like use her grapple hook to go to the enemy, as opposed to doing Leon's like little jog to roundhouse kick.
Objectively better. I don't make the rules.
Ada also doesn't really have a fast run, but she is doing all this in stilettos, so fair. Leon has no excuse. He's wearing sensible shoes and should be able to run faster than a light jog. That's my take. He's just
slow.
I did, the beginning was harder. I got used to it by the end, but there was a very dicey bit, where she had to fight one of the, like, big giant guys, which on the grapple hook, you can, like, jump up onto roofs and shoot at him, which is very cool, as opposed to always being on the ground shooting at him. But I had, like, 2 bullets left. And no way to make more at the end of that fight. So very dicey, but we got through it. And then the game always like resupplies you a bit once you're done with like a chapter or like a big boss. So I managed to get back on track.
Nice.
I'll say. The merchant also, I think it's really funny. There's a merchant that you buy weapons from. He's just like a weird British guy who's there in the town. He has some like unique dialogue lines for Ada, or just like he says things in a different way. He clearly thinks Ada is much cooler than Leon. Which very, very valid.
Yeah.
Valid merchant.
Yeah.
I get it.
Look, you gotta have a favorite.
You gotta. You'll see says things like, my other customer doesn't know about these ones. It's like, aw, merchant. I appreciate it now, but like,
yeah, what?
Hey, I just played as Leon earlier this year. Where were you hiding these things? But very good. You know, more in the sort of campy, like, horror action thing. If you liked the remake, you will probably like this as well. You know, it's the official review. It really seems like they're gonna do a Resident Evil 5 remake, and we'll see. There's some problems with that one, I think.
Remake.
Hopefully they really remake it. I also played Slay the Princess, which we had played a little bit of at PAX this year.
I was thinking about that.
Because
my boyfriend wants to play that one too.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. So basically, you know, you're on a path in the woods. At the end of the path, there's a cabin. In the basement of the cabin, there's a princess. And you're here to slay her, as the narrator tells you. And so you go and you do that. You follow the narrator's advice, as much or as little as you so choose. And, you know, based on the choices that you make, different things happen. And then you end up going through it again, and you're like, hey, wait a minute. But things are different the second time that you do it, depending on what you did the first time. And then depending on what you do the second time, things might be different the third time you do it. Mm-hmm. And then it's not like a constantly repeating cycle. It's like you get to a certain point, you finish like a type of princess storyline. So like there's a bunch of them, so I'll just go through like one for an example. If you go in, you know, you kill her successfully. The narrator's like, now you're happy and everything's good, and the voice of the hero's in your head like, this seems not correct. So you go and then you slay yourself with the dagger, because you don't want to be stuck in this cabin forever, as it seems like you are going to be. And then you go back to the cabin, and when you go there, this time the princess is already dead, but is also a ghost. And so in that case, you can choose, oh, I can kill her as a ghost again, or I can let her possess me and I can walk her out of the house as atonement, you know, for killing her the first time, since it didn't go very well. And then if you kill her again, you might have another cycle on top of that before it comes to an end and things like really reset, because there's like an overarching thing in the middle. When you open up the game, it tells you like this is a love story, which the overarching thing in the middle is sort of the love story element of this game, which I won't spoil because it's neat. But so there's a whole bunch of routes, and by the time you get to the end, you've probably done like 5, of which there's still a bunch that you won't do in a single playthrough. So everybody's will be different, and there's some replay value if you want to go through it again and make different choices. But I found it very charming. I liked the different sort of routes it could take. I like the unexpected directions it could go. In a single playthrough, it'll stop you from going down the same route as before if you somehow end up that way, because there can be multiple paths to get to the same destination as well. Like, if you mess up if you kill the princess but also die, she also kills you. There's, like, multiple ways for that to happen, but I think it leads to, like, one route most of the time. So it'll like gray out those options in a single playthrough to make sure that you're getting a new princess experience, I guess. Which is a clever way to do it and is justified by the way that the overarching story is working. So that's just about, it's like 3 hours to do a single playthrough. But it's very good. The art's really good. The voice acting is fun. The concept is fun. And I thought it was good. Just generally solid experience.
Stand out for sure of like bold art choice, fun voice acting. Mm-hmm. You get a decent taste of it in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Definitely was a strong PAX 2023 game. Is that it for you?
That's it for me.
Oh boy. All right. So here it is. The Lost Judgment spoiler zone. There'll probably be things in here that aren't spoilers too. But, you know, if you haven't played Lost Judgment and you don't want discussions of, like, the end game story stuff, fast forward to the last 2 minutes. Subscribe to the show, also. So I finished Lost Judgment. I'm going to be curious to hear about your thoughts here, because I was like, this is fine. The main story. Spoilers, overview, Lost Judgment, right? So, in Lost Judgment, it's so hard to, like, explain this story. There's not, like, a great, like, short synopsis, right? There's this cop who's been convicted of, like, groping a woman, but it turns out that groping thing was actually just an alibi that he had set up to murder his son's bully, who had bullied his son into suicide. And you find that out pretty early, and Yagami is at the school for, like, an unrelated bullying thing, basically. And gets sort of, like, sucked into investigating what was going on here. And over the course of that, you meet this guy, Kuwana, who's a handyman in Yokohama. And he seems like he's kind of your buddy until he's not. And the teacher who... You ultimately discover that the groping thing was like a setup. The teacher you've been working with a lot at the school is murdered. After this, Yagami will say Sawa-sensei in every other sentence for the rest of the game.
Right? Dear God.
At some point, I wanted somebody to come out and be honest and be like, actually, I don't care about her. So you can stop.
Also, like, who is Yagami? Like, what would Sawa-sensei think? She would think this. Yagami, you don't know this woman.
I do wish... So there's this...
Why did you download pictures of her on your phone? So you could show people all the time.
It's effective emotional blackmail. He keeps a case file, right? It's in his case file. But, yeah, one thing that I wish the game had done a little bit better, and I think that it could have done this, and so I started to be like, okay, like, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to this. There's this teacher at the school who is also connected to some of these bullying murders that it turns out there's multiple of them because of she was at the school of a group of students where sort of like the first one of these was connected to.
Yes, she had like a classmate who died from bullying, like died of suicide from bullying.
Jumped off, went into a 13-year
Oh, he didn't die. Oh, right. That reminds me of what I thought. My theory for what this game was, but whatever. And then she had a student, the guy's son, right?
Yes,
who died from suicide, who was in
Toshiro.
her class. Yeah.
And then also worked with this bully turned student teacher who then got murdered. So I did sort of feel like, if in the first, she's really only alive for what felt like the first third of the game, but I guess was the first half of the game. And I did feel like, if she had gotten a little bit more characterization or, like, somehow, like, started working with Yagami a little bit more actively than she did.
Yeah.
It would have felt, like, a little bit... Because, it did feel like a lot of, like, you didn't really know her. And, like, even if you did know her, you're hanging a lot on these people feeling guilty about a random woman dying, which, like...
Yeah.
It continues to unwind of like, there's all these people who've killed a bunch of people, or at least one.
I also just think like this whole game's treatment of women is like a huge step back for what I've played, at least. Like by the time it's at the end and like the two girl students like come to see Yagami for some reason, and then the guy, like, shoots them with rubber bullets. Like, that's
no,
just,
they get
like...
kidnapped. You're misremembering that a little bit.
Okay, but same. They get kidnapped. That part was like, this is stupid. All this is stupid. Like, you're just doing this to put women in peril again. Like, shut up.
I felt like that was more... The game lost track of what to do with the students.
Yes.
And, like, I had that thought too, but I was also like, well, one of the students, like, some of the students are girls, and they needed some kind of ending for that storyline.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
But I agree, you know, it was Shirosaki, the lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, it's fine that we get to play dress up with her every game. Like, that's okay. Whatever. We put Yagami in dumb outfits, too. But it was a little bit like, oh, man, like, can't Hoshino, her, like, protege, like, go away?
I know, he's so awful in this game. He's
gotten so much worse, and the fact that he's supposed to be, like, 3 years older here only makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. When I look at it from a distance, I think I would also say it's fine. But by the end of the game, for me, so many things had become so, like, aggravating. I also just, like, wasn't connecting to Kawana at all. Like, it just wasn't working for me throughout the whole game. And so, like, having the fundamental conflict be him and Kawana was, like, I don't know. And I guess that one guy was, like, a government agent.
Yeah, so to unwind a little bit more of the story here, right? So you find out eventually that Kawana, this handyman you were working with, is actually Kitakata, the teacher of this boy who jumped off the roof and, like, all, like, the start of this whole tangled web. And you find out that he is basically, and man, I hadn't thought of him this way until someone called himself this, but, like, he has been, like, a bully serial killer, basically,
yes,
over the course of the past 5 years or so. He has proof of the bullying that led to this student jumping off the roof, and he's been using that to kind of, like, blackmail the now adults who were the bullies into helping him to enact justice on bullies all over the country who weren't held accountable for driving other kids to suicide. Which is, like, sort of an interesting setup, right? Not a bad setup idea that it just doesn't really, like, super pay off on as well as it feels like it could. But then, like, you figure this out because you, like, found something at Kuwana's apartment that he, like, didn't expect you to find, basically. And so because of that, you end up, like, trying to work with him to get him to turn himself in and to get this government official who's the mother of this boy in a coma to turn herself in, and then discover that behind the scenes, and also to prove that Ehara, who's this cop, groper cop from the beginning, like, killed this bully. So there's a lot going on, and also behind that, there's the, like, well, also Japan's, like, public safety, public order, public safety? I can't remember.
I do not remember.
Koan. I know the Japanese word. But they're, like, behind the scenes, extrajudicial, like, order keeping police force is trying to keep all of this in the shadows and kill Kuwana outside of court, which Yagami loves the law. Usually. And also, this all, like, does come together, like, almost too neatly, honestly, which I'm not going to do a good job of here explaining. But also, there's this new gang in Kamurocho because the Tojo clan has split up. RK, that's run by a scary guy. I sort of thought RK, I was like, oh, interesting. Like, they're starting RK here, and, like, we'll see this moving forward, probably.
I thought RK was so interesting conceptually. And then they're just like, nah.
And again, it's sort of, like, the whole concept here of, like, oh, like, the Public Safety Bureau because like we've seen this happen in Yakuza game, every third Yakuza game or so. There's like the cops are really kind of pulling the strings here, sort of plot. So that's not a new idea. But I did think, I was like, oh, again, interesting idea that like we're gonna reveal that the head of this gang has actually been an undercover cop the entire time, and they started this gang because it's, and like this is like a real thing of like it's easier to control the gangs if they're gangs than if it's just a bunch of random dudes doing crimes. So RK was sort of a, not that they knew that, but was sort of a cop-fronted organization the whole time. Interesting stuff. Does mean that it will have no carryover into 8, because presumably it's going to fall apart. And because both of the leaders of the gang are dead or in prison.
Yeah.
But interesting. And yeah, at the end, the kid wakes up from the coma. We manage to convict the guy of murder, and the government woman decides to turn herself in for murdering her son's bully. It's all a little too neat.
But they do let, I did think this was notable for a Yakuza series, is he does let Kuwana walk away.
Only because he's got no proof. Which is so not Yagami. Like, all the time he's going like, I'm gonna find proof. His final monologue is even about like trying to like do that. And it is interesting in this game that's all about like, no, the law. He does let the serial killer walk away.
So, can I tell you my theory for what I thought the game was gonna go?
I would love your theory. I was thinking about it the whole time, and I was like, I can't think of like a clever thing that Emma would have thought of here.
I thought Sawa Sensei was in on the murders.
See, that would have been interesting.
And that I had Sawa Sensei's age very wrong, because I thought Kuwana would be like her classmate, like either one in the coma or there was like someone else mentioned, I think. But even if he's the teacher, I think it would have still worked. And like at a certain point, Sawa Sensei, like when her student committed suicide, and like she went to him in his new handyman persona and was like, we have to do something about this. You're gonna do something, like you didn't do it when you were my teacher. Right. And then I thought, like, when she dies, and sort of like going back to RK's whole concept of like the recruitment speech that Akutsu, I think. Akutsu gives Kaito is like, you can go into this, make your money, and then you can just leave when you want and have a nice civilian life, because there's no oaths or whatever. And the one character moment Kaito gets in this whole friggin' game, he's like, that's not how it works, right?
That's not true. I find out that Kaito likes to watch Old Enough with Higashi at the company office. That was huge.
And so I thought we were going to get into like the stepping past, like stepping into the darkness or whatever. Like once you step there, like
you can't really,
when you're
very,
taking
very
revenge.
Kiryu story in a different way. Like
yes,
once you're in, you actually really can't go out, even if you think you can.
So like Sawa Sensei's death would be like, oh, like she stepped in and Kuwana let her go further into there instead of pushing her out, right? And then like contrasting that to all of our characters of like Kaito coming out of the Yakuza, because like the way the Yagami helped all these people come out of the darkness, right? Yeah. And live real lives. And then I thought, like, at the end, like, oh, he could offer a hand to Kuwana. Like, okay, let's figure this out.
I did think he was going to show up for sushi. Until I noticed that Tsukumo was there. I was like, for 5. Yeah. For 5.
Yeah. But I thought, like, and then at the end, like, you could offer a hand to him and be like, okay, let's figure this out. You know, like, what can we do? Let's talk, you know? And it just, no, none of that. I was just very attached to Sawa Sensei being in on it, because I thought that would make, like, her character meaningful.
Right, a little in grayer. Yeah.
And she's just the nice teacher who's sad and dies.
Yeah. That's tough.
Anyway, that's what I thought the game was gonna be about. It was not.
That's it. I mean, that's interesting. I think that's an interesting take.
And to be clear, it's not just like I had a pet theory and it didn't come true and I didn't like the game because of that. Like, there was a lot that just, like, built on me. Like, the fact that it felt like the first game didn't matter at all, except for, like, the one comparison Kawana made was, like, I didn't help my student, just, like, you prove this guy innocent and, like, didn't
He does
save
drop
that
Emmy's
woman.
name one time.
I thought that comparison was stupid.
Yeah.
Like, the difference between Kawana did not do his job and Yagami did do his job.
Yeah.
Just that his job wasn't enough. That's not the same thing, Kawana.
Yeah.
You idiot. And, like, I'd lost the plot of, like, whatever was going on with RK at the end, and the side characters felt like they had nothing to do, and the fake sexual assault thing was, like, why? And the salary stuff, and it just was a lot, I felt like. And every time he was like, what would Sawa-sensei want? Like, it just all built up by the end. I just had no, like, leeway for the game anymore.
I do
so
feel
I came
like
down very harsh on it.
It did feel to me like the fake sexual assault was sort of intended to be kind of like, oh no, in that way, a little bit. I think there's more.
But then they're like, you woman, you suck. Like, it feels like it comes very hard on the blackmailed woman in this scenario still. Like,
I mean, fair enough. Yeah.
Like, I feel like she gets some of the, like, she's like the harshest treatment out of all the people he's blackmailing.
You want to know, like, my theory for a while? I thought Soma was going to be her husband. Her totally absent husband who never came home. I was like, Soma is going to walk in the door.
That would have been good.
And that's how she's connected, because she's married to the head of RK and she doesn't even know it.
What do you mean? He's not going to walk in the door. He's going to slide behind you.
He had some weird movement in that final fight.
It was very, like, he would be in front, I would be keeping him in front of Yagami, and, like, he wouldn't even step behind Yagami. He would, like, roar, like, on ice skates to stab him in the back. It was awful.
It was super weird. I had to eat, like, 100 sandwiches to get through that fight. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, the total lack of connection to the previous game was weird for me, too. It was somehow both, like, totally unconnected and also, like, you wouldn't, like, who's Higashi, you know? Like,
he owns Charles now. That's the one piece of delight I got.
I just mean, like, I can know who Higashi is because, like, I've played that. Like, it feels like you both had to play Judgment, but also it does not care at all that you have played Judgment. Yeah. Which was a weird mix. And something that I often really like about RGG games, what I really like about the whole Kiryu saga, and, like, there's definitely things about Ichiban that are, like, in conversation with Kiryu's story too, obviously, is that they do such a good job of being like, this game is carrying something forward, or, like, something about the character has changed a little as a result of this, or whatever. And, like, there's very little of that. And there's, like, not even, like what even has Yagami been doing for the past 3 years? Like, there's no consequences to the fact, or no change in his life to the fact that he litigated, like, what should be, like, one of the most impactful cases in Japanese law courts, like, of the decade.
I mean, I guess it's sort of a thing in, like, detective fiction to be more anthological.
Sure.
In a sense, so maybe that's what they were going for, but it didn't feel great.
And I just would have liked it if they were going to do that for it to be more hangouty, too. Like, oh, it's so, like, when you get those tiny little moments, like when Yagami and Kaito were tailing this little boy to help him go on an errand, and their heads were stuck in a movie poster, I was like, here it is. Here's the humor. I like that when these people hang out together. They're, like, a fun group of, like, dudes hanging out together. And also, I could just smell them being like, here's Yagami's party. Because it was, like, always the 4 dudes with me in those final fights. And I was like, I see you. I see you setting this up for, like, their turn-based appearance in Yakuza 9, where we get all, or Yakuza 3 the third, where we get
Right.
all of them.
Sure.
Kiryu coughing up blood all the way. Keep him alive one more game so we can bring all three of them together. But yeah, it felt weirdly divorced from the previous game when so many things happened in the previous game that were directly relevant here, or even if they weren't, felt like they should have connected. The side stories, like the school stories, side stories were lovely, and again, I haven't finished it, so like, but it did feel like, oh, Yagami is spending a ton of time with these students. Like, does that have no impact on him? In any way? And also, like, I think there's a more interesting judgment game about Yagami going head to head with a serial killer. This was a boring serial killer story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't like, I don't mean that as like, there's interesting things about the story here, but as a detective versus serial killer story, like, that's like ripe ground. There's lots of good detective versus serial killer stories, and Kuwana, weird. But I'm sure there's lots of great Yagami and Kuwana fanfiction out there.
Yeah. I'm sure there is.
Feels like the only explanation for that. Like, why do they trust each other at all?
See, at least if I could have been like, hell yeah, make out, that would have gotten me some joy near the end.
Right?
But like, I just couldn't like Kawana. I don't know. I tried.
There's just like not enough there. It's like, it's weird that he is convinced by Yagami at the end. Like, he was fun. The boat scene with him was fun. I was like,
Yagami's speech at the end is not great. He's like, one day, things, I'll figure something out.
I'll fix the law. Again, like I said, it's very Psychopaths, but in Psychopaths, like, the law is like a thing, is a robot that you have to fix. And here it's like, you're not gonna fix you're not even a lawyer, dude.
Yeah.
I did appreciate the, like, oh, Yagami kind of works, he sort of works outside the law, and that he's a detective and not a lawyer. But we, like, didn't dig into that.
And he can beat up children.
He can beat up children. I did like the, like, the callback to them and their phones at the end. That I thought was a successful wrap.
See, I wish they had managed to bring I don't know how they would have done this without, like, requiring you to do school stories, but I wish those kids had been, like, part of the school stories thing, because their development feels a little like it comes out of nowhere to me. Yeah. Like, they're just suddenly like, we're not bullies anymore, because Yagami punched the bullying gene out of me.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, overall, Lost Judgment is definitely better than Yakuza 3. I think still I found the original Judgment, despite the fact that I was way ahead of the story, I think it's a better game. I think you're more, I think in many ways the school stories are better than the, like, relationships around Kamurocho thing, but the relationships around Kamurocho thing felt a little more, like, grounded in the world of everything that was happening. Look, you only get one chance to tell the, like, big origin story, case that destroyed your life story, so it's a little hard to follow that, but the stakes were a lot higher for everyone involved in that one. Even if I was way ahead of it the whole time, I think it was a better crafted story. This one was just like, it's too much that he's, like, fighting the whole secret police. And he, like, wins. But not the worst. Better than 3. I'd have to think of if it's better than any of the others. But better than Yakuza 3, for sure.
Poor Yakuza 3.
If they ever made Yakuza 3 Kiwami, it would probably improve. But 3 was rough. The twin of his dad, you know, he's fighting CIA. His guy dies, but then he's hanging out at, I can't wait.
You know, there are some parallels, because you do have funny little children in Yakuza 3, right?
That's true, but the funny little children are, like, some of the good part of Yakuza 3, to be honest.
Yeah, but they're like the school stories.
Yeah, that's fair. But here the combat is better. Snake style. Kiryu don't get snake style. You know?
Snake style does rule.
I was mostly a tiger style person, but I would use snake style sometimes. I like the heavy hit. Alright, I should probably wrap it up there. This episode is super long. But listeners, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the Lost Judgment edition of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
Just think, Emma and I will probably talk for another half an hour about this off the air.
Wait until we get, we'll just have to do like an Infinite Wealth show.
I think we're gonna have to. That one's gonna have to be like its own special edition, where we have to time our playing to finish
exactly the same. Yeah,
similar times. Anyway, have you played anything interesting? Do you want to share your thoughts on Lost Judgment? If you gotten sucked into FTL, Cold Steel, do you want more dodgeball games? Hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games in the hat, and read our blog, featuring long-running series, Click with Boyfriend, and Split Screen. I should probably write a Lost Judgment blog. Maybe on the train. But most importantly, if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Casts, wherever you can find podcasts. Subscribe to Talk This. Next week, we're talking about Siren and Sea of Stars.
Yep.
S week.
Look forward to it.
My joke will probably be great.
I've got a feeling this episode's a good one.
A good feeling.
I don't know how I know.
And then I've lost track. It's my side quest in 2 weeks.
Yep.
All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, listeners. I hope that this week, you only get as many bike races as you want to get into. Please, oh my God, please.